Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Hammer Drops. I'm your host, Laoch. So today we are going to discuss Joe Biden says yes to reelection. We should all be so happy that he's going to No. I don't know about you, but Joe Biden running in 2024 is a complete joke, in my opinion. I think there's other people that can do much better job than Joe Biden can. But we're going to get into today, we're going to talk about a few of the bills that he's signed into law, and a few other things that he apparently has left out on his website for his re-election attempt. This should be interesting because in 2020, 2019 coming into 2020 for the 2020 election, he did most of his campaigning from his basement. And yet somehow this man won the 2020 election by the most votes ever. I don't see that. Now, I'll give it to Joe Biden where credit is due. He won. Was it a fair win? That's debatable. That's conspiracy. And I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories here. But we all know the truth. I don't need to say it. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, you know. If you know, you know. If you're a far left, liberal, progressive like Joe Biden, AOC, Kamala Harris, and all these other crazy maniacs, then you're going to sit there and be like, no. We didn't cheat. There was no cheating. There was none of that, blah, 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 blah. So we're not going to get into that. But let's get into this whole Joe Biden run-in in 2024. And let's talk about some of the good things he's done for our country. But before we get started with that, if you're watching this on Rumble or YouTube or something like that, do me a favor. Don't forget to subscribe to that channel. Like the video. Leave me a comment. If you're listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, give me a give me a review of the show or the episode. 5-star, 4-star, whatever you want to do. That's also going to help me beat the algorithms as well and get out to more people. So if you can do that for me, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate it. So let's get into this whole Joe Biden thing. So first and foremost, why don't we'll start off with a Fox News article. Now, I'm not very big on Fox News, never really have been. The only thing that I would watch would be Tucker Carlson, because let's face facts, and this is for another episode. I'll get into that later. I'll be doing an episode on this whole Tucker Carlson and Dan Bongino, but those two are probably the only two flagship people for Fox that I personally would watch, because they weren't afraid to ask those questions that all these other reporters are. They weren't afraid to bring things to light, like the J6th, all that stuff. And yet they're no longer with the network. And we'll get into that in the next episode. But for starters, all right, so Biden campaign announcement makes no mention of any bills he has signed into law. Now, the funny thing is about all these bills that he signed into law, and a lot of the left-leaning or the left-leaning organizations, news organizations, they're not going to tell you about the billions of dollars given to Ukraine, but luckily for you, I'm here to tell you exactly how much money Biden administration has given to Ukraine over the whole Ukrainian war, along with a bunch of other nice little stats that you might find interesting. But let's get into this article here real quick. Now, this is the first time I'm actually looking at this article, so you're going to if you're watching this, you're going to see the article as I'm seeing it. And if you're listening, you're just going to hear exactly what I'm telling you from the article from right now. So let's get into this. Okay, so like I said, Biden campaign announcement makes no mention of any bills he has signed. But he did make sure to attack Republicans, essentially calling them all MAGA Republicans. Now, MAGA, let's make one thing really crystal clear. MAGA, we're not extremists. It's called Make America Great Again. because we believe in America first, not foreign policy, not foreign nations, America first. Americans come up before anybody else, in my opinion. This is our country, Americans, everybody else. Following? Okay. So Biden declared his intent to run for president again in 2024 election cycle. However, again, his campaign announcement video failed to mention any bills he signed into law. Now, if you've been watching any of these mainstream medias or even Fox, the video, I'm not going to play it because I'm not going to give Joe Biden that pedestal to play his stuff on my show. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not all about that. But it makes no mention of anything, but it does attack Republicans and it says lies about Republicans, which essentially everything that I've noticed that the Democrats say, whether it comes to that they're the ones that want to get rid of Social Security, it's 9 times out of 10, turn that table, point the fingers back at the Democrats because they're the ones that are actually wanting this, not the Republicans. They're trying to save it. But the propaganda machine just revs up in that direction to get more and more people believing that that's what is going on so they can get the votes. So that's why you need alternative media outside of mainstream media to actually get a somewhat centered view on what's actually happening. So on Tuesday morning, Biden's campaign released his 3-minute announcement video, which, mind you, I listened to it, and listening to that man just try and make it through 3 minutes, it's like it's nails on a chalkboard, folks. That's just my opinion. Which begins with footage from the January 6th. Now, before we move any further, January 6th, the videos were shown on Tucker Carlson. It literally shows the officers inside the Capitol essentially giving them a tour of the place. And you have Ray Epps, who was the man inciting the violence. Also, there's videos showing that the police let the barricades go down and pull them away and let people come in. But yet, let's not even talk about how other congressmen asked to make sure like the National Guard was there for protection. And guess who denied that? Nancy Pelosi. But we won't talk about that because that doesn't fit the narrative. What fits the narrative is showing that Donald Trump, who was nowhere near there, incited all of this. The one thing I've learned about Democrats over the years is they never take blame for anything that they do. They have to point blame at everybody else. And if you disagree with them, heaven forbid you disagree with them, because once you disagree with them, folks, then the name calling, the rudeness, and just everything just comes out. The nastiness of that person just comes out. So keep that in mind. So, okay. So they say the Capitol, it hits MAGA extremists across the country who he says are cutting Social Security, which is a lie. I just explained that. Dictating what healthcare decisions women can make. Again, another lie. The Roe versus Wade decision by the Supreme Court essentially gave the rights back to the states to make those decisions. Made it to where the federal government has to stay out of those decisions when it comes to abortion rights. So if you don't like what your state's doing, then that's where you need to start off with elect people who you want in that are going to, that take the same stance as you as far as that goes. That's it. That's all they did. They didn't ban abortions. You can still get abortions. No big deal. But because it's the Supreme Court did what they did, it's MAGA extremists. But, hey, let's not talk about the indoctrinating of our children and ask yourself this. And I might catch some slack for this, but why is it that transgenders need an audience of children? You need to ask yourself that. Why? Leave our kids alone. But the left, they give them a day. They have their own day now. Transgender Day. Whoopity-doody. All right, so let's move on. It also reiterates his 2020 campaign message of fighting for the soul of our nation, uniting the country, and defending the middle class. But I should have said defeating the middle class, because that's essentially what he's trying to do. Uniting the country? Come on, Joe. You have done nothing but you have not united nobody. What are you smoking, man? You smoking crack with your kid? Show me how we're united. Do you not see the violence in Democrat-run cities? Come on. I can't even make this up. You got soft on crime. It's running rampant. You have cities with gun control laws, the strictest gun control laws, and people still being murdered by, guess what? Guns that aren't bought legally. But we won't talk about that, right, Joe? Because that defeats your narrative of trying to go after our guns. So we won't talk about that. All right, so this is not a time for complacency, Biden says in his video. That's why I'm running for re-election, because I know America. I know we are good and decent people. You're right. Most of Americans are good and decent people that wake up every morning and go to work and provide for their families, and that's what we do. But it's not Joe Biden. No. Okay, and I know we are still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity, he adds. Well, he doesn't treat it. That doesn't sound like what Joe Biden treats us as. That's we're a nation where we're given. I'm sorry. That's where a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. Well, that doesn't make any sense. And we believe that everyone is equal and that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country. Hence, his wanting to, I don't know, help the college kids not pay their tuition. Maybe that's another way of trying to get the younger generation to vote for Joe Biden because, hey, it's free ride to college. Don't worry about it. We're going to help you out. We're going to wash away that debt and add more of that money to the inflation that's going on, to the taxpayers, to pay your debt. That's essentially how you succeed in this country. So it also left unmentioned throughout the announcement is Biden's signature legislative win. His Inflation Reduction Act, which is the Democrats' $739 billion climate and tax bill that enables the federal government to distribute more than $350 billion of loans and grants nationwide to green energy projects. Yeah. And here we are. They want to push this green agenda and electric cars and all that stuff. And yet, folks, do you know you need natural gas to get electricity? But yet, we're not doing that. Biden's campaign also chose to leave out the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan during the COVID-19 pandemic, which economists warned would worsen the United States economic outlook, which it has. The announcement also did not mention his gun safety bill following the Uvalde, Texas shootings. But let's not talk about why they down there in Uvalde, why they waited so long to even go in. We got to be hush-hush on that, right? So Joe Biden, so that's what's going on. That's what Fox News is saying. All right. So now let's get into, the Inflation Reduction Act, something they don't mention about that is the fact about, well, you know what? Let me pull that up. So the Inflation Reduction Act, as you can see right here. What's in the Inflation Reduction Act? Creation of 15% corporate minimum tax rate, prescription drug price reform, IRS tax enforcement. This is where it's at right here. 87,000 more IRS tax agents to make sure that they audit the middle class. So $80 billion that went to that. like we need to spend $80 billion. But one thing that this is not going to show you, folks, is the billions of dollars that they've given to Ukraine. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you exactly how much they've given to Ukraine in this time frame. I know that this episode is going a little bit longer, so bear with me. Another thing that we're not going to mention during Joe Biden's tenure as resident of the House is our U.S. border and how it's just a war zone down there. I mean, it just increased 25% jump in migrants crossing just in March alone. We're getting so many migrants crossing, and Joe Biden says that there's nothing wrong with our borders. Yet we have all of this happening. If you haven't watched the news, maybe you need to watch it to see what's actually going on down there. Or just do a quick, as much as I hate Google, do a Google search on it. Our borders are a mess. Fentanyl is running rapid. People are dying because of fentanyl. Child trafficking, human trafficking is at an all-time high because our borders remain open. And this is all thanks to Joe Biden and his administration. Now, here we go. U.S. leads the rest of the world with $196 billion given to Ukraine from now until $196 billion up until February 2022. So I'm sure it's a lot more, but now, because with all these other bills, they're $800 million here, $700 million there. And funny thing is that you have Zelensky over there crying, saying that he's not getting any of it. But yet many of his politicians have gone and quit millionaires. Go figure. No wonder why none of the money's getting to the front line for Ukraine down there. So, here's another quick fact for you. Since Biden has taken over, there has been 103 U.S. food manufacturing facilities destroyed under his administration. 103 food processing plants. If you want to see this article, it's on AmericanFaith.com. You can see it there. Unfortunately, Google likes to hide this stuff, so there is a new web browser that you can get, and it will actually, you can pick and choose how you want to see things. You can have it left, far right, or center. So you can actually see what the left is saying, what the right is saying. Then if you want a bipartisan, what's going on, you can hit center and actually see that. So it's a great browser, by the way, and I'm not in any way sponsored or anything by them, but I will point out that it is a great alternative to Google. You can actually get information from it. So 103 food processing plants since Biden's taken over. Just this year in 2023, how many train derailments have happened? Quite a bit. And yet they had... So bear with me. Their infrastructure investment and job acts, which was supposed to help with that. But Buttigieg is more worried about redoing roads and bridges because they're racist instead of fixing our railways. But again, like everybody else on the Democrat side, Buttigieg loves to point the finger at Donald Trump and blame him for everything, even though he hasn't been in office in 3 years. That's just the left for you, folks. So that is stuff that they're not going to tell you. Which, if you want to know what's really going on, you got to do the research for yourself, because let's face facts. Mainstream media, your ABCs, your NBCs, your Fox, all of those and CNN aren't going to tell you anything. Okay, if you want to know what's going on in today's world and prepare yourself, you need to do the homework. Or you need to come to alternative sources like myself to actually be informed. And this is, if Joe Biden actually did something good, I would have pointed it out. Because even though I don't like the man, if he did something good, I'd point it out. If something I agreed with. Like Barack Obama, yeah, Affordable Care Act, I'm not a big fan of it, but it has helped out many, many people that need health insurance. Am I completely for it? No. But I mean, do I like Obama? No, I don't like Obama. Did I vote for Obama? No. But that's just where that's at. If you, my listeners, can think of anything that Joe Biden has done legitimately good, except for trying to continually take our rights away by, our Second Amendment rights, especially, then let me know. Because people also need to start to remember what our Declaration of Independence is and what it means. What it means for our Second Amendment. We have rights as citizens of this country underneath the Declaration of Independence. If our government is not working for us, that we have the right to install a government that will. That was put there for obvious reasons. And look where we're at today. As many people would love to still blame Donald Trump for everything that's going on in the world today or in the United States, I should say, with inflation, gas price, food prices, all of it, you can't. Because underneath Donald Trump, gas prices were under $2 a gallon. Food prices were low. You can go to your Home Depots and stuff like that and do renovations on your home at a lower cost because we didn't have the inflation like we do today, which the inflation we have today is essentially canceling out any kind of raise that you might be getting at work because you're paying more now to get to work. And now there's also that fear of insurance companies dropping you depending on what cities you live in. If you live in Chicago or work in Chicago, and if you own a certain vehicle, guess what? Your insurance company may drop you. This is all thanks to Joseph Biden and his policies. Nothing more, nothing less. This is what, if Joe Biden was doing so well, take a look at each and every Democratic-run city. Look at Chicago. You have stores leaving. Walmart has left Chicago, South Side and West Side, because of the looting and the violence. Chicago corporations like McDonald's, they can't get quality talent to come and even interview for a job with them because of the fear of the violence, because the soft on crime approach in all Democratic-run cities, because they just want to turn a blind eye to it and say everything's fine. This is showing in the Biden regime. They care more about pushing their ideology of transgenderism and all of that than focusing on building our military up in case we, of an invasion or we have to go to war. Yet we'll give all of our military weapons to Ukraine in a proxy war with Russia to leave us vulnerable. But that's okay, folks. You have other countries that don't want the U.S. money anymore because they don't want the U.S. ideology of, their transgenderism and gay rights and all this stuff, where you have countries like Russia and China that come to them with military strategies. And that's what these companies want. They want to feel safe. And they don't want this ideology pushed onto them like the United States is trying to do. That's why we're in the predicament we're in. That's why you have some Republicans that don't want certain books in schools. I know I had kids. I don't want my kids. If my kid was young, I wouldn't want my kid reading a book on how to give a blowjob or how to jerk off or anything like that. Or that kissing a boy is okay. The left has always said, follow the signs. And as we follow the signs, we get demonized for doing so. It's a walking contradiction, folks. I hope this episode has shed some light and my viewpoints on the stuff that Biden has done for this country, which isn't good. Now, you need to ask yourself, are you willing to go through 4 more years of this? Just think of where we're at now. It's only going to get worse in 4 years. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is a savior at all. But what I am saying is anything would probably be better than Joe Biden. Look at Kennedy. He threw his hat in there. He's got some, let's see where he's at. And he's a Democrat. If he can do something that's better than what Trump, DeSantis, and definitely Joe Biden has to offer, then maybe he's the guy for the job. But only time will tell. It's still early. It's 2023, and we still have a long way to the next election. So until the next time, folks, be good to one another. We'll see you guys here soon.